Hey guys, welcome back to Creating Careers Podcast. On today's episode, I had a chance to sit down and talk with Molly Murphy. Molly is a drone pilot in the Birmingham area. Her and her brother actually own Dearborn Drone Company, and this company specializes in FPV drone piloting. It was really neat to sit down and talk with Molly and learn sort of her history and background, and to learn how her and her brother started this company, as well as to check out some of their work. I really did enjoy this conversation, and I think you will as well. Check it out. Molly Murphy, thank you so much for joining me on Creating Careers Podcast. I'm excited to talk with you today.
You as well. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. So let me go ahead and just get started in this because I'm really interested to sort of understand a little bit more about your background and sort of how you got started in video production, especially, specifically sort of the niche that you have found in video production. So go ahead and just tell us in general, like, who are you? Who is Molly Murphy? What's your background? What's your origin story, so to speak?
Yeah, I guess a good way to start that is through geography. So let's go Maine. So Maine is where I was born. I was there until I was 7. And then I came down to the South, and I'm the only one in my family with the Southern twang. So I got the twang. So I was quite young. So yeah, Maine is extended family where I think of like childhood. And then South Haven is more teenage and growing up, college. I even did college in Mississippi as well. Then I went out to California, Los Angeles, and I did grad school out there. So I stayed a little bit longer, did some uh, research jobs out there for mechanical engineering, and that was great. And then I came to Birmingham. So it's kind of, Maine, back to the South coast, and then Birmingham. So that's kind of, I think geography is a good way to explain where I've been and what I've been influenced by. And, I like to travel, I like to explore different things. So that kind of like is a grand summary, right?
Yeah. What is it? What did you major in when you were in college?
So my undergrad I did at Mississippi College, and that's outside of Jackson and Clinton, and I did physics for that. And I didn't feel 100% ready to say I want to be a physicist. It was great. I enjoyed it, but I also was playing soccer. So I felt very conflicted in did I give it my all? So I felt the next progression was going to be grad school, and that also took me out of the South. So I went to Los Angeles for grad school, and then I did mechanical engineering for grad school at Loyola Marymount, and that was great. That was fantastic. Such a wonderful time. Yeah.
Yeah. What made you decide to do that as a major, the mechanical engineering?
I feel like I always knew that I liked technicalities. Don't get me wrong, it's still hard, right? There's like a curve to learning technicalities, right? So, but I always enjoyed numbers, cause, and effect. So that's kind of what led me. And I also knew as a woman going into a science background that I would have a bright future.
Yeah.
There would be a spot for me, however that fell. So, yeah, I just kind of said, let's go for it, see if it works. And then, like I said, I did the physics, and it was fun. It was cool and all. It really exposed me to energies and how things transform. But ultimately, the mechanical engineering was, hands on, like that one sector. So it was kind of cool to go even deeper into one area of the physics, with mechanical engineering. So.
Yeah. Did you go right out of college into the workforce and begin using that at all?
So it took me a while to, obviously with my degrees to make it to production, which is kind of like where we're headed towards. But yeah, as far as, sorry, could you repeat that question?
Like, just right out of college, did you
Oh,
begin using it?
so right out of college, yeah, I didn't explore production at all for a while. I went to a private engineering firm. Yeah, there was about 10 of us, and we worked on stress stress relationships of metals with different environments. So the big job they hired me on for had the funding, for extra personnel is the San Francisco Oakland Bay Bridge. So it had failed, and there were different tension rods that they didn't know, who to blame, who ruined the tension rods. Is it in storing? Was it with strength? So we kind of explored different scenarios, and that specific testing was very, very intricate. Once again, that technicality that I like, and it explored, like, you have these huge rods which are super super heavy, like strength, like high strength rods. So if you could imagine testing them is not very simple. So
No, or
the lab I
safe.
was exactly very true. So the lab I worked with did small sample testing and took what they called like stress and intensity thresholds, and this like little coefficient to say, here's a small scale if I put it in a big scale. So we correlated different environments with the real rods. And it was really cool to see how different materials, we explored how the materials were made, because some lots were bought, not all the rods were bought at one time from one manufacturer. So you have that variance. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of like variables. And in that space, you could do things kind of called coefficient of experiments. I think that's what it's called, COE. If I'm not like, COE is definitely the acronym. Hopefully, I'm not butchering the words in between, but it basically
I won't know the
provides
difference.
all these variables and tells you this interacts with this. So you kind of have to go through the whole matrix. And then once you go through the matrix, you can say, oh, these are like correlated, or these are correlated, whatnot. So that's kind of how he took his small scale to large scale testing. Yeah, it was pretty cool. I loved it, but it's very specialized,
Yeah. Yeah. It
Yeah.
sounds your experience seems a lot more high-minded than my experience in college. Mine was like history with a minor in education. So when like yours is so much science and math, and engineering in general has always been really intimidating to me. But
Well,
also
it's a
just
huge field.
it is,
It's
yeah.
a huge field. And I feel like one takeaway, at least from the lab, was there was a moment where we had a very formal presentation on the results. And we weren't the only ones hired. We had multiple tests run to kind of come to even a checks and balances. Like, these labs will do this test, these will do this. But in this, huge presentation that we did, I saw, scientists arguing. So it goes to show me that there still is no 100% right or wrong way. It's just who's passionate enough to kind of like explain, and, like, it could be even intimidation, of like why things get made, but that may not be. So I guess it's still a form of communication, and it's still expanding, and it's not like set in stone. And that made me feel good knowing that if these folks are arguing this late in their career, like, I just got to stand by what I do, you know,
Yeah, yeah. I
accept
think
criticism, but like stand by what I do.
Yeah, I think if you can justify it, and again, like you're saying, there's so many different ways to get to the same end. It there may be little nuances to why one might be better than the other, but if you can argue your point and you can stand firm in that, then anything is possible through those means, I guess.
Hmm.
Yeah.
For sure.
All right, I want to know about your journey, specifically your journey to becoming like to getting involved in video production. I mean, I see you even wearing
Yeah.
the shirt right now for your drone company. So tell me, how did you go from this engineer to that's working across the country to being here in Alabama and owning a drone video production company?
Yeah. So my first dabble in the creative space, I'd say, was probably a junior in high school taking I think, photography 101 class. I think we were the guinea pig or the second semester of it. And yeah, I mean, I always was a friend with the digital camera back when, not a lot of people had digital cameras. So this was kind of 2006, like maybe three of the, 100 kids might have it or whatever. And that was really cool because I definitely credit that to my father. Like he wanted me exposed to technology and like that's expose them to the technology. So yeah, I had a digital camera, did the photography class, and I have photos in my mind, from that time, like probably 5 or 6 of this little kitten that I had at the time. Or, like how I thought this shadow looked great. Because, like photography 101, you're looking at your shadows, looking at your composition. And this is way before even coloring. I had no idea. Like, I don't think that was ever even touched. The photo was what the photo was.
Right, right. You might have had a preset in the camera that you could have
Yeah,
gotten
maybe
like
I put on
sepia or
sepia.
something. Yeah.
Yes, the sepia. You knew I had some sepia photos.
I think we've
Yes,
all been guilty of those at some point or another. So,
yeah,
um,
yeah.
yeah,
So that was my first dabble, and then I'd say the real kind of like plunge outside of an iPhone or like, extended digital cameras that I got for a couple of years. It was my brother and I always had plans to have a company together, and we knew it was going to be technical of some sort. And he got exposed to drone racing in 2016, I believe. And so I was ready to take the leap and give entrepreneurship a shot. And yeah, him and I were both like, okay, let's do it. And I knew that I had a way of capturing moments, whether or not I may not be like the most skilled as far as like lingo or how I'm still learning my like if I do that this happens thing. But the one thing I knew I could do is like I could connect and tell a story and like be creative. So I felt like I could handle creative and be a bit more polished. And then Lucas brought that like drone, something fun, something unique, like worth taking a risk on, and it fit that the business that we wanted to do. So drones were really my first like full plunge back into the production space because, drone technology is not just production. It's more than that. So
right.
I kind of happenstance said I'm in the drone industry and then you guys just keep begging for it. So it's like that. I love production and we also do live streaming as well too. So like those two are just
Live
like the most.
streaming with drones.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
So we live stream rock racing, and then we've done other types of like races as well, like boating. Any like small scale kind of. It's an industry performance racing. So
Yeah.
yeah, there's different series, and we do a rock racing and provide one of the camera feeds to for them to see because they're bouncing up all these hills and mountains and not everyone can trek to these spots and the drone can do it very quickly. I mean, you
Yeah.
have to communicate with people. That has to be safe and, all of those measures, right? But when you kind of get to that point, it's great.
Yeah, I've just gotten I think my hands on the first like FPV drone that I've ever flown, and it's one of the DJI. What's the newer?
Is it the Neo one, the little
No,
one,
not
or
not
is
the little
it
one. It's the one
Avata?
Avata. Yeah, it's the Avata 2. And
Mm-hmm.
that so far, I don't even think I've fully gotten it into FPV mode. I think it still hovers. Like I'm
Well, and it comes down to your use case, maybe it's not FPV in terms of that crazy acrobats, but
right.
maybe it's more the intricacy of going through homes and schools and you know
Hmm.
what I mean? So it kind of depends on your use case and how you want to use it. Just like you would with another camera, right? You would lean on this camera for this type of job or,
Right.
budget
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, I've
So.
seen a lot of sort of the like the racing, drifting kind of shots that y'all have done.
Mhm.
Tell me, like, what's one of the biggest challenges that you end up facing with drones? I would imagine battery life.
Dude, it's a wild west. Like there are still legalities to it. However, it's one of those like not everybody is exposed to all the information or even wants to educate themselves. Like they just kind of show up and do. So I think the biggest challenge is not having egos between pilots and like working well. If you see there's another pilot at an event, you should probably talk to them and say, hey, I have a drone, because as far as like radio connection and whatnot, it could cause a drone to drop and hurt somebody. So, yeah, I think the biggest challenge is making sure everybody is on a team. We're here, I know you're here for this person and I'm here for this person, or whatnot, but like we have to have an operation together. So the hardest part is definitely at events having an operation and making sure that everyone understands like where we're flying, and who my client is, and what my needs are for the mission. So
Yeah, and I've seen y'all seem to be posting some classroom, uh, I guess, photos that I've seen where it looks like y'all are
so
involved in some type of program. Or are
So
y'all?
yeah, I feel like both my brother and I, once again, it's kind of like the two of us, and like just getting to know our community. So he's in Memphis, I'm in Birmingham, and as far as me and me as a creative, not just as a pilot, right? So me as a creative, I've basically gotten involved with a local walking club. And I noticed, hey, they do events and things and they don't have anyone photographing them. I want to get better at photographs. So, yeah, I basically just linked up with a local walking club, and the photo sessions that you're touching on are just an avenue that I've been allowed to kind of, like I said, expand my creativity and my network and my clientele, as Miss Molly Murphy
Yeah.
versus Dearborn Drone Co. But like DDC is me. It's just, I kind of don't always merge the two. But yeah, I do a lot of stuff as myself through DDC. And that's
So
what the photo sessions were.
so the like photography in general is something that you've held on all the way since high school. Like you still do. I mean, now are you still using sepia tone and stuff?
No, I've been able to dabble in Photoshop and Lightroom.
Yeah.
So I've at least taken, the software portion of it, the post, doing a little bit of post. But no, I think for me, I got back into photography with the drones. I find a lot more people, or my clients, tend to like video. So I use photography as because I have experience, like have been exposed and had a love for that. And I also knew that we can't just offer drone services. We have to offer like a package to someone. Like, why would I send someone else elsewhere if they're already coming to me to, ask them to make a video? So to me, that was just an avenue that I wanted to explore, because I felt like I had that product, that fit between I want to do photo sessions and the girls want to do some. So that's kind of how it just like naturally evolved. And we also do pilot events. So it kind of like we flew at Sloss last year. We had a pilot event and they got to freestyle at Sloss, which is, not a lot of pilots get to just fly at Sloss.
Yeah.
So I love Sloss, by the way.
Yeah. No, no,
Shout out.
it's a cool place, definitely. And I think
Yeah.
let me pull this up real quick because this is one of those photo sessions you were talking about, right?
Yeah. And there's so many. Those are just some of them. And let me tell you, Sloss was a playground. I had never had so much fun. And yeah, it was awesome.
And then is it this same walking group that you did sort of the drone with the pool party?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That
Yeah.
one, I'm don't have that
So
pulled up
those
right
things
now,
like
but
that seemed like a good fit to bring over to, both personal and business. So I kind of have to think about that too, what's like my branding page and like what's Molly.
yeah,
So I have to, so there, that one was on both. And I love that because you can see, like it's fun because you get to play with different things. You can do whatever you want with video production, and that's, I guess, the best part about it is that I really, I'm not the type of person that plans so much. I more plan the space and understanding what we're doing, but I really like to let things evolve and like fall into place naturally.
yeah.
So you still have a plan, but it's not like so
Rigid.
detailed. Yeah, you can't be, especially with video production. I find if I'm like really rigid with it, you sometimes just get mad, or like you have all these expectations where it's kind of like what's naturally happening.
Yeah.
you
I
know.
found if you're doing like video event kind of coverage, that kind of stuff you really I mean, it not that you can't have a general plan, but like you're saying, you really can't hold to a tight plan because there's so much outside of your control. It's different probably when you're doing like
A studio
film.
shoot,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
like, or even like a more controlled environment. But when
Right.
you're around, I tend to do more like group or large. I mean, and that was also part of the challenge with, to me, the portrait like sessions that I was doing was, can I do something else? And but the cool thing is just with the club, they let me do whatever I want. So, there I'm just like, look, you're doing this. Okay, I want to, shoot this or do that. So they kind of let me just throw out my own creative ideas, which is
Yeah.
nice.
And this is the kind
That's
of
the
rock racing you're talking about, right?
Yes. Yeah, that's the live streaming that we do, and we also put the GoPro on it. So, for the feed, you're going through the camera and the drone,
Right.
whereas the post, you're going from the GoPro.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of the, like I said, the drifting stuff I had seen before.
Yeah.
These kind of videos. Now, is this something that you already had an interest in, like this kind of
It's
racing,
very
or was
much
that?
it's both Lucas and I. Like
Yeah,
DDC is the essence, the business side, right? So I know this kind of will explore Molly, and then we'll explore me within the business. But yeah, it's both him and I. I have to credit it all to him as far as like he's the drone specialist. He's the primetime pilot. He's the one that has, the racing experience. So like I said, I kind of bring more of the polishing, the creative, like the glue, and he's got more of like he's in the industries that are kind of anchoring us, which is great.
yeah. Who's more of like the business side to it? Who
Dude,
manages?
we go like we just kind of, I guess that's the benefits of being where we're at right now. I mean, in like our business career, we're still relatively new. So, wrapping up our third year. I mean, we're like, yeah, so 2022, 23, 24. So, yeah, we're wrapping up our third year, and it's been nice because I was full time at another place at the beginning, and he's had a baby. I've had a baby. So it's kind of, like we really enjoy where we're at and the fact that we can hand things off right now, between each other. But
But
I
you
would say I'm typically that person. But man, you should have seen him on like using AI the last few days. Lucas, he's been he's been on one. So I don't know what he's doing right now. He's probably on there.
nice, nice. Well,
Yeah.
are you? Is this something that both of you are full time with this now?
Hmm.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. Well,
I mean, we both still have other, that's once again the benefits, right? So I don't know how much since you're exploring, right? I'm also a caregiver to my son, and that kind of, comes and goes depending on like if my mother's in town or if I have a job, then, I'll hire a babysitter and account for that, or if my husband's here, whatnot. So yeah, I mean, that's it.
yeah, I was actually doing some of the research just last night, and some sort of final research, and you'll see a picture later on that shows up that I think has you and your son in it. My wife works in NICU, and she works at Children's and at UAB, and
She may have ran into him.
well,
He was at
that's what
children's
she was
NICU
like.
for 6.5 months.
Was she even
Or
thought?
well, 5.5. One at St. Vincent.
She said that y'all looked that some of the pictures definitely looked like it was probably set there. But yeah, she's a practitioner in children's and at UAB, so very likely that y'all may have crossed paths at some point.
Hmm.
So it's a very special place. Our both of our twins ended up at children's at one point. They're
Okay.
17 now, so
Well, that's good to hear.
yes, yes, they've done very well. I do want to talk about some of your work. It
Yeah,
looks
let's
like
talk about
this
it.
is a little bit more of a variety. We've talked about the
Yeah,
racing and drifting, but also the Tutwiler building y'all
dude,
covered.
that was, and that one has just like, when I talk about these core memories, that one's like that's a core memory for
It
multiple
looked
reasons.
incredible.
Well, I had to, so two pilots were hired. So this
Yeah,
was really my launch. It was first of all, it was on 4th of July, 2022. So we had started 2022. So I basically got my pilot license and got it in the nick of time to be able to fly. So that kind of like launched me. I was a little bit like, do I need to do it now? Can I, am I ready to fly? And then it just seemed like that. Dude, I know how to fly, and someone needs you to go. So you need your license, and you need to go. So yeah, that job launched me getting my license. It was two pilots. So I managed another pilot, got to know another local pilot that he's awesome. He's so cool, such a character. Love him. And you always have your little characters that are like, okay, that person does ABC, or But
Yeah.
anyway, so uh, I got to do the job with him, and then it was, an implosion. Like, how cool! So
I'm
yeah,
pulling
it
it
was a
up
lot
now.
of little. Yeah, and also the gentleman that hired us, I think it's either on Nelson Ariel's website or it's on their company DH Griffin. It might be
Yeah.
on DH Griffin's page.
Yeah, that's what
Dude, it
this
was
one
just
is.
such an experience when you talk about like, to me, these are the missions, right? It's not always the same, and that easily equates to production. You go on these missions; they're not always the same. You don't know what you're getting into. And yeah, it was just a good squad. There were at least four pilots in the air, and it was cool for me to see like this production. That was what I was actually flying, that view. I had the simplest job.
Just the static
Top
right on
down.
top. Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, that FPV shot was our pilot that we hired. And then, they put all these awesome cameras. It was just a great experience to be a part of, and there were a lot of legalities to it too,
Who was
which
holding that
opened
camera?
me up.
Who was
Which
holding
one?
the camera that fell into the roof? No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. That's funny. Now
Yeah,
it's incredible. You were saying it opened you up to a lot of the sort of
like it
legal.
exposed me to like, so they have, I think it's called, man, my acronyms might be a little rusty, but I believe it's a TFR. So it basically means like you can't fly within this area. I believe they do them as well for NFL games. Like you can't fly in an area. So I had to apply with University of Alabama. With my license, I had to be insured. I had to have my like go through my pilot's license because once again, this is my first job, so it was almost like a marathon. Whereas my following jobs were much easier because I already had my license. I already like had gone through it, but that first one was just everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's part of why that was such a core memory because it was like the launch into a true drone mission and like capabilities of what you can do and the teams involved and like I said, the legalities of it too.
Yeah, I've actually flown like right next to where you're at here before. It was I flew for like a hotel there, just getting an aerial shot, and the challenges associated with flying near the University of Alabama stadium alone. It was a challenge. Not to mention every police officer that was there because it was a game day. And
Mm-hmm.
every police officer that was there walked up to me and started asking, like, "Excuse me, sir, what are you doing?" And
Yeah.
I had already walked up to one officer to inform him what all I was doing. But man, the challenges associated with that and trying to make sure that you got all the approval that you need,
Mm-hmm.
as well as dealing with people on the ground. Of course, I would imagine this was a little bit more of a production than what I was doing. I was just getting, like I said, shots for,
Yeah,
it was
they
actually a
had streets
condominium.
lined
But
off and, certain people like authorized to go in and be
yeah,
in certain places. So, yeah, but when you're out, once again, we talk about, events and like you never know where people are going to be. So you have to kind of have like, okay, this is my spot because I have to have a landing spot.
right.
And I'm not going to be fancy and catch it with my hand. I could, but I'm not going to.
I've tried to do that on the beach one
I
time,
could.
and mine's like a Mavic 2 Pro, and I
Yeah.
had seen people turn like the little ones upside down, and that it would turn off. I don't know why that just popped up, but like I'm holding it in my hand, right? But it won't turn
Hmm.
off, and I go to
Yeah.
turn it over, and it won't turn off, and now I had the wrong hand on the controller. I couldn't land, and I'm stuck with this thing in my hand. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. And I'm having to like set it down and
You're
try
like,
to,
don't move at all because if I move, if
oh, it was
I
bad.
drop it, we're
Yeah.
gonna.
Or lose a finger to those blades. But,
Well, I will say that's why I won't catch one because one of my first like I I don't know how much I should say because it's one of those things karma, but I've never crashed. So I know I will one day. That's a
right.
big thing. That
Yeah.
may just mean like I'm playing it safe. I want to come home with my drone. Like I don't. But anyways, long story short, thankfully I've never crashed, but I have clipped my fingers on my propellers, and it hurt so bad. I never want to do it again. So like I'm not going to catch it. So that's okay.
Yeah. My first drone, it was a Mavic, my first Mavic 2 Pro. So that should say something, the fact that I've got a second one now. But
We
my,
have two Mavic Pro 2s.
well,
You know,
mine,
they're like they just laugh. They're like roaches. Like they're just gonna keep being here forever.
yeah, my first one I drowned in a lake or a pond on my dad's property. I was backing up, like I had flown into like this little inlet, and I was backing up, and there's one tree in the middle of this lake, and it wasn't even a tree; it was just a stump, like a really tall
Yeah,
stump.
going backwards will get you for sure. It's
Yeah,
almost like you have to take the path first and then go backwards, just so
yeah.
you know. Or you could be fancy and do the waypoints and all that, but it's just like
Who's got
I
time
like
for
to
that?
let it go. I'll just let it happen, you know? You
Well,
like
mine
unless
ended
you
up
really need to be that precise. If that's the mission, that's the mission. You know what I
right.
mean? If they want that day to night shot, you'll get it. But
Mine ended up in the pond, and then I ended up in the pond trying to get it so I could send it back for the DJI refresh, which I was able to recover it about
oh, that's
20
good.
minutes later in
Yeah,
January in the pond,
good.
and then send it back. But yeah, those are not fun times whenever you lose a drone or crash a drone. So
So
um,
I've lost signal plenty of times. I
that's
don't know
scary.
how I managed to get my drones back, but yeah, I mean, I've skirted the line of the signal plenty of times. And I remember the first summer that I bought my drone. I didn't have my license yet, so I was really just winging it at that
Right.
time. I think it was 2020 when I got it. And then we didn't start the business till 2022. But anyways, yeah, 2020, I was, out on a boat in the middle of Pickwick with no one around, and I lost it for about 10 minutes. I already accepted that I wasn't getting it back, but I guess the return to home worked. And I remember looking down and being like, oh, I've got connection, like 5 minutes later.
Yeah.
So I gave up and I cried. I was like, that was a good 2, 3 months.
Oh, it's
But
terrifying
yeah.
whenever stuff like that happens, especially when there's no way you could get to it
Well,
or
also
track it.
the safety. I always think about the safety. Like, if this falls, where is this going to fall? You know what I mean? Like, where is it going to go? I know it might. It could hurt somebody
Yeah.
depending on where you're at. So,
So the third image in this looks like pretty high end real estate. Is that something that y'all do as well as real estate?
yeah. So I will say once again, it seems like video is definitely like our higher like clients and more of like our 80%. But as far as real estate photos, I do think that like we've done a few in those, and we kind of have to think of both an inside and outside package. So yeah, we've done a few MLS listings. We've done a few even dispatch jobs. There's different piloting dispatch that do a lot of real estate photos. So I did two today that really simple for me as a pilot, right? It's not so much a business owner move. It's just a good way for me to kind of understand workflows of other businesses in the pilot industry, how to communicate with other pilots. So it's good research and information for me to be able to do that too. So we don't necessarily always work with high end clients, but we have dispatch companies that we also work with that ask for real estate photos a lot.
Yeah. Do y'all, what percentage would you say of your work is FPV versus like, I don't even know, what do you call the other kind of drones? What's the other?
I kind of call it more, I think you can say like a hover drone,
Okay.
or I don't know if they call it, is it acrobat? Acro mode. There's something where it's called acro mode where it like puts you like pretty where you hover. So I think that's another there. It really, I don't think that that's fully been standardized of like, what is that? To
Okay.
me, I call them more of your like off the shelf drones. Like, granted, you can buy an FPV
Right.
drone now, but they're probably only making like five of those, versus like a mass production drone with software and like all that stuff that comes into it. Um, but yeah, so as far as FPV, so so we had the series this year, which was a definitely a big one. So I would say at this point, 70 to 65% is FPV.
When
And
you
then
say
the rest,
series, what do you
when
mean
I
by
think of,
series?
so we did 10 different events for the rock racing.
Okay.
So I'm thinking in terms of like volume of like dollars, right? So probably 70% of our income from this year, um, I would say it's definitely FPV related. However, on those live streams, we also fly the Mavics, the off the shelf drones too. So
Yeah.
we kind of, but the highlight is always the FPV.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
sure. That's what they're paying us for, is for the FPV.
Well,
It's
especially
just
for
when we
those kind of,
want,
yeah.
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 But they like their scenic, their opening shots. So we kind of do a little bit of both, but it's primarily FPV.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you say is like your favorite kind of events to cover, or your favorite type of work? And I'm sure the paying ones are first and foremost,
Of course.
but in general, like what do you enjoy?
I feel like I enjoy a lot of what we do right now, especially looking at what you presented, because, like I said, I like photos and I like video. So to me, whether it's a construction report, a fashion event, a an architectural, design, to me, it's like I like getting to meet the people and completing something with a team. And like to me, it's more the act of like going through the job and coming out with this end product, versus like they're all fun, you know, they're all
Yeah.
fun.
What
I
about
mean, don't get me wrong, maybe I have to like pep myself up, but for the most part, I feel like I'm pretty good at like finding joy somewhere.
what about the live versus like the recorded? Which, I mean, do you enjoy the live? Do you enjoy the fact that it's like
So
there and you're
live
done,
streaming,
or do you hate live?
I like it, but it's a very demanding job, depending in our case on the environment, because we're outside. So like we've been in wet, muddy scenarios where you can't go to the bathroom or eat, because you're doing the live stream. Like, so, and then it turns into 8 hours instead of three. So,
Wow.
to me, it's kind of, the live stream is like, not every live stream is the same. So you never know what beast you're going to get into. And it's also just like production, but I find you're less frantic with production. With live stream, you're frantic because you're building and solving the day of. I mean, production does too, but a lot of the times you may use like the same kits. I feel like a live stream, you have to build the track. You know what I mean? Like the track was not always the same every time because this place looks this way. So, I mean, yeah, it's hard, but I feel like I have a core memory with a live stream. Like my first live stream is there ingrained in me. And another pilot couldn't show up, and then Lucas and I basically, like, I think we knew a week and a half, and we showed up and we did it. This was our first live stream. But I loved it, and I still do love it, but I know that there are some instances that make it really challenging. So you have to have like the right mindset and the right people to be able to, like, if Lucas and I weren't able to do that job, I need to make sure somebody else can actually like stand up to what, the demands of the job is.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so it's a little harder to source a pilot for live stream, but
I can
everything
imagine.
else, yeah. But live stream's great though, because guess what? When you talk about almost insanity, you're doing the same run 20 times. How do I do this different this time? You know what I mean? Like they just saw this, but so it really puts you under pressure, which is great. Production does that too, but it puts you under pressure, and then it forces you to like find different paths or even try new things sometimes because you're doing the same thing. And then yeah, so I think it's fun, but it's very challenging.
Yeah, live streaming always has been one of like my least favorite things, but with COVID, it became sort of necessary a lot more so. So with Dearborn, obviously, I know just based on the research, this is your maiden name, your family name, correct?
Yes,
All right.
yes, yes.
How easy, or maybe not so easy, or how many challenges are introduced by working with your brother? Because I have a sister, and I don't think my sister and I could ever work together.
Yeah, I can definitely say it's a. I would never say I hate him, but it's like a very, it's your brother. I'm his sister. Like there's levels to that relationship, right? In
Yeah.
terms of like, I feel like we can dish more out on each other because I know like well, I'm gonna love him no matter what, and he's gonna love me no matter what. So like it gets raw and it gets real, definitely. And yeah, I mean, I guess we're both pretty intense personalities as far as like, like I wouldn't say we're like super opinionated, but when we do get passionate about something, it's kind of like get out of my way. Like when I actually do hit that, I'm passionate about something, we kind of like, okay, go with it, run with it, do what you got to do. I trust you. And I think that's the biggest thing is you really have to go through those fumbles and those errors of like learning the boundaries, but then at the end of the day, still continue to trust that like y'all are on the same page and are like have each other's best interest, in mind. And I think for me, one of the best things about working with my brother the last couple years is the fact that, I could step out to have a child, in the NICU for 6.5 months. I still worked a little bit, but like emotionally I was not, there to run the business. So the benefits, not only just from like, yeah, you have those negative sides, but like that's kind of what we wanted to sign up for. Like, let's build something together and be there for each other. So at the end of the day, we just got to shake it off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How much do
So
you
we fight.
use? Oh, I can imagine. How much do you use your engineering now?
I would say, ooh, I don't know, man. I so I use it a lot, right? Engineering is critical thinking. As long as I am thinking about how to solve a problem, I'm being an engineer. So like that's I guess my engineering background is like, okay, I want to get here, so I have to go here, 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 here. Get into that area. So yeah, in my head, it's more word problems instead of math problems. As far as like numerical problems, I guess you could say. So now I'm like putting the equation together of this customer wants this deliverable. So, like, how do I back it up and get them that deliverable, right? What's that equation? So, yeah, I'm always thinking, like, yeah, I got
Are
what's going
do
on.
you build any of the FPV drones, or is that more of your
No,
brother?
I could, but I don't want to. Same thing. That's like, I could do it, but I don't want to do it. So, yeah, he hasn't built in a while because he's good at building and he's good at flying. So, like, his stuff still works. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, maybe he changes the propeller, but stuff works. So I mean, it's like we went, the first year, we maybe built a few things, and then as of now, it's not like we're spending a lot of bench time. It's definitely more performing the job, networking. I feel like this year we really pushed more networking. So,
Yeah.
which
Have y'all flown any of the like really big drones, or do y'all stick with more of the smaller FPV and off the shelf drones?
so he's had more experience with bigger drones prior to DDC launching. So he's been exposed to that. And I do feel that that is something that we would love to explore. I would love to have government contracts with bigger drones, more intricacies. And we're old enough now to where like we can really actually, you kind of have a 2 year period before you can like attack and go after opportunities like that. But yeah, I think he has experience. We don't have that as like our bread and butter today, but I think it is something that will always be on the horizon as long as drone technology grows. And we have a big network between agriculture, first responders, and safety. So it's like if somebody calls and asks and says, I've got an opportunity, do you want to work on this job and like be more formal, like I said, with my engineering or my manufacturing experience, like we're really open to a lot of opportunities. And I do think the big drones are going to be in our future one day for sure.
Yeah. I see so many people. I mean, and I'm an example of this, of just going out and buying your own drone
Yeah.
rather than hiring like another party to exclusively do drone. What kind of advantage do you feel like y'all provide your clients when y'all come in and you're solely responsible for the drone work?
Yeah. So I think for me, the biggest client that just hires drones are a lot of out of town people. They just don't want to fly in their pilot. Like that's just not there's a lot of pilots as there are. So a lot of times I've had people flying from Virginia, I've had people flying from Florida, I've had people flying from Vermont, like just for random, because their client has come to like the southeast.
Yeah.
So yeah, to me, it's just offering a solution so they don't have to have more hotel space, more food. Like I'm a local pilot to them. So, but also those jobs pay really well for me as a local pilot. So it's like it's a perfect fit. So yeah, a lot of our production and solving their needs are going to be like I said, the higher jobs, or the other ones would be that were more low cost but offer like I said, we don't do just drones. I did, I think it was on the October 13th, like someone did a fundraiser for their business after 20 years at Vulcan Park. So I, put a 2-minute video together, did the audio, like the creative direction. So we do more than just the drone. The drone is just kind of what like hooks them as far as
Yeah.
like, well, I know I want aerials. So whether you're doing all of it or part of it, like I need that. So
Yeah. I'm curious to know what you would tell people that are just getting started in drone space, or even just people that are, starting in the creative industry in general. Do you have advice that maybe you've received from somebody, or something that you would give to a beginner?
yeah, I think that just going through my own journey, I had mentioned me having my drone for personal uses in 2020 and then converting over to a true pilot and, being paid for my work. Um, it's kind of interesting because I see things back when I was recreational and I like, you cringe. So I guess to me that like it's this a serious thing. You're flying something in the air, so it may seem harmless to just pop a drone in the air and get a photo, but there's, like I said, levels to where you're flying. Vulcan Park, you got to sign something before you fly. You got to have insurance. You know what I mean? So like you can't really just long gone are the days where you just pop your drone up and you're done. So I would say take it serious if you're getting paid for drone work.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people out there that have bought drones that do not have their license. I think
yeah,
that's
no,
a
and
really
that, like I said, I'm not going to out everybody or anybody or this or that. It's more about educating and making sure that we understand. And I'm like, yeah, like I said, I mean, I wasn't getting paid, but I didn't realize that even though you're flying recreationally, you still have to get a certification.
yeah.
And there are certain places like national parks and stadiums and things where you do not fly. And if you don't understand that you have to go through an app and look that you can fly, you know what I mean? Like it's not just you. Granted, you could get a little dingy mabob with like not high security for $300, but let the wind take it off and goodbye. Like, so I mean, it really like there's a lot of ways to get into it, but if you're going to do it professionally, like you got to be able to do it professionally because it's changed. It's not. It's pretty formal now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
I've
that's
had
just over the last year. That's like, yeah, that's just the last year.
I feel like getting the Part 107 has changed a lot since I've gotten mine. Like, I had to go. I don't know. Do you still have to go to like the airport over there to actually take the test?
So when I did mine in 2022, I had to go to one of the testing offices for
Yeah.
FAA. So I didn't go to the airport, but it was, like an FAA building. Um, the test, I mean, it's kind of interesting because tests and like real life, like actually applying, right? You can learn stuff, but do you know how to apply that information? So testing may be hard for people, and then they may be great at flying, and like understanding awareness. But at the same time, like I may be really good at testing, but then I still might not know how to fly my drone. And we kind of see that a lot too. People will say, like, yeah, I've got my part 107, but like I don't really know what to do next. Not, you just go like, just go on out there. You just now you can find your clients.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yep.
It's definitely a skill both in using the equipment, but even like selling the services. I think the business side of things, whether you're a photographer, or videographer, filmmaker, drone operator, like all of that stuff, the business side is usually the last piece we learn, and oftentimes the most difficult and challenging piece to it, because you're like, all right, now how do I actually make a living doing this?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, very true for sure. You're exactly right, and I think that that's one thing that like we are definitely blessed to have spouses at work as well too that allow us to kind of like grow and nurture and almost be the be breadwinner of our families. It's definitely a pure passion project, and I know we're doing good now, but I feel like there's so much more that we want to do and that we're building up towards, if that makes sense. Whether it does or doesn't happen, I feel like if our dreams get to come true, like it'll be grand and it'll be big and it'll have tech and it'll have software and portals and all this and that.
Yeah.
So maybe one day we'll get there, and if not, like it's nice that we get to have that opportunity to do that now.
Do y'all have interest in like getting involved in like the aerial shows that they do now with the drones, where it's like a bunch of programs?
No, I think that that's kind of a very niche sector. I would be open to doing, we don't do it a lot, but like 3D mapping, ortho
Yeah.
mosaic shots. We still do that sometimes, but it's not, like I said, people that pay my bills are production and the live streaming, which is still a form of production, just, like a little crazier, a little more unpredictable.
I like it. Well, tell me this: what is next? You mean we've sort of alluded to it this whole time, but like, what is that next step in y'all's growth, or next step for
Yeah.
you as a creative? Like, what's next on the horizon?
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'll focus on DDC. I feel like we're at a good spot to kind of just re-look and analyze over what we want to do and where we're going, and like I said, where's that fit in something we really want to push. And I feel like we haven't really been able to like put ourselves out there through ads and more SEO and more website, and I feel like we've kind of it's been coming to us, thankfully, that we're at a point where we want to actively push, and try different marketing techniques and sales. And we also want to do a rebrand. So we're kind of working on a little bit different logo. And so I think that that will kind of like once we get our rebrand, we can push the marketing that we want to do. So like this is
Yeah.
the perfect time for us to take November and December and really kind of like fine tune and figure out what we want to do. But I do feel like 2025 could be really really good for us as far as live streaming. I would love to get another series. So if we could, retain the series and get another one, that would be awesome. And then I also feel like we've been networking really heavy. So hopefully like more of those personal relationships will find avenues, whether it be like the photos that I do or a personal event for somebody that spun off from me doing a photo. I do feel like there's a lot of growth or opportunity with my personal relationships as well as my brothers that he's been creating. So yeah, rebrand, marketing, networking, I think are all big things that like hopefully we can, live up to in 2025. And then as far as myself, I think like I'm a dreamer, so I'm always dreaming, and it changes too. So hopefully, maybe a new house for us, a bigger house for us in 2025. Hopefully, more like self care and work life balance in 2025. So yeah, I think that's more my personal, things that we can expect from me, and as I continue my journey.
Yeah, well, you've talked about networking, and you've been able to come to both of the
I
meetups
love
that
your
we've
events.
had.
Yeah,
Thank you.
of course I'm gonna come. Like, you can't have creatives. I mean, y'all are my customers. I'm like, hey, let's do something cool. And I don't know if I told you, but I got a job from the first meetup that I went to.
Really? No, you didn't
Yeah.
tell me that. That's awesome.
So that happened because of you and because of the meetup. And I just feel like that's like able to be um, nurtured, in the space that you provided. Like, we're all looking, for ourselves, but those jobs will put together like this puzzle, and five of those people will link up. So yeah, I think that you could find, I'm sure somebody else has probably got a job from one of those meetups.
Yeah, I mean, it's been really neat to see. First of all, just people even pay attention to any of the stuff that I'm doing. Thankfully, it's not me. It's people like you. The stories that I get to share. That's what has drawn people in. I just get to be the one that sort of, says welcome to Creating Careers podcast each time. But
You just say when and where.
exactly, exactly. And then the meetups it's been extremely humbling and encouraging all at the same time. Like to just have so many people show up and support it, and even the ones that have sponsored it, it's been really neat. But that's what
Yeah.
it's really about, is opportunity for all of us, including myself, to just meet each other, and hopefully like that leads to partnerships, that leads to collaboration, that leads to jobs, that leads to just sort of like growing in general of the creative community in Birmingham.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
Yeah, you gotta have like your Rolodex filled out and like know, you gotta have a community and people to call and know and lean on.
We might be showing our age, just the fact that we know what Rolodexes are.
I barely know what that is.
Oh, okay. Well, I saw
I'm
them
just
in real
playing. I
life.
know what it is,
Yeah.
but because my old boss was old, he was
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
was 80 at that lab I was talking about. He was
Yeah.
80 years old. But anyways, I feel like I know that from
Now,
him.
my grandmother, I remember going to her store, or even my granddad's office at his house, and he had a Rolodex, and I'm sure I saw it other times in my even older years. But
They're pretty
that's my
cool
main
looking. I
memory.
might have to get one just to have one,
Oh yeah,
like just for decorations.
they look great on a desk. Not to mention, it's
Yeah,
a good place to keep all those business cards that we give out all the
you're
time now,
right.
right?
All right, I'm gonna have to go get one.
Well, the last question I have for you is, who inspires you? Who pushes you to, just in your personal life, in your business life, in your creative sort of journey in general? Who pushes you to do better, be better, just the best version of you that you can be?
Yeah, I mean, to me, I think that's a twofold. That's like the village around me, and then that's, I said I'm a dreamer. Like, how am I, my dreams inspire me, right? So I have to be able to dream and have that vision in a way. And then, like I said, backtrack and figure out like how do I become what I want to be and aspire to be. And then, I mean, just in the past, I feel like we've had crazy, since my son was born, I feel like we've just been surviving. So it's been cool to see my village show up for me in the last 2 years. And yeah, I mean, the fact that so many people have gone so hard for me in the past 2 years, like I feel like I'm finally charged and ready to kind of go hard for them. Like, and show up for my community. So yeah, that's part of, why we want to do the networking, because it's just like we've seen so many people pour into us. Like, I want to continue that and expand that and like really get to know the people, in our community.
Is there somebody that you've had the chance to work alongside that you were like, they really, just seeing them perform their role caused you to sort of want to perform your role even better?
Yeah, and that may even go back to that first job that I did. Jordan Nelson was his name. He's from North Carolina, who got hired to do the construction summary or recap from Tutwiler. And I saw him and I want to do that. Like I want to be the pilot in command and have three pilots and communicating with security teams and the construction team and the fire, like I want to be the person who's executing high level missions and through drone services. So yeah, he Jordan kind of like set the stone as far as like what was possible, because I've seen drone jobs, but it was not like that. Was almost like that was a production, right? So that was my first production.
You
Like,
said Jordan Nelson?
yeah, Jordan's pretty cool, man. Jordan's a cool dude. But yeah, he kind of like he needed two pilots and in Tuscaloosa, and I shot my shot, and he took the chance on me, and yeah, that's kind of what, like I said, that job launched, like opened my eyes and made me become a pilot, and like okay, I can do that. I already did it. I can do it
Yeah.
again. You
Do you
know?
know do you know his Instagram handle or his
Yeah, I
business
think
Instagram?
it's Nelson Production. Let me check it out. He's just like he's a great guy, and that was also part of it. Professional, but still relatable. Let's see. So Jordan,
I see a Nelson
I think
Productions.
that's it. Yeah.
It looks like boxing on that one. That may not be it.
Mm.
Yeah, that's TV season. That's not it.
Let me look on LinkedIn because I know he's on there.
And if
But
you
I
can't,
think his Nelson Aerial Productions is his company, and he just did some cool stuff helping out with Hurricane Helene. So
yeah,
a lot of like, visual eyes as far as like showing this like news outlets what's going on and whatnot. Yeah. His company is Nelson Aerial Productions.
let me see.
But he is the one, like I said, that kind of like I was doing it the right way, right? He was being a formal pilot and production, like also he edited the video. So he wasn't just the pilot, he did like the production as well.
So this is his company.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's Jordan's company, but he's in North Carolina. So, and I would say, same with him. It's kind of like people just come and go. I can't tell you all the drone services. People tell me your ideas, and we're like, how do we put this together? You know?
Yeah.
But
That's
yeah,
cool though. That's cool.
yeah, he's
So
he's a cool dude. So he just like set the scene, let me know like what was possible, and yeah.
nice. All right.
But there's
So
plenty of great pilots. So
well, let me say congratulations to you on your business as well as your family. Your son looks so cute in that picture that's on there. But seriously, congratulations! Thank you so much for just talking with me today.
thank you. I
I
appreciate
think
it as well.
your story going from engineer to drone pilot to business entrepreneur sounds really cool. And I do appreciate your support for the meetups, just showing up and being there. It's been great to see you in those settings.
Thank you so much as well. I appreciate it. I mean, you're definitely allowing, like I said, you're nurturing and facilitating these conversations and outlets to happen. And that's really cool. Especially, like I said, y'all are my clients, potential clients. Like, this is what I couldn't ask for a better meetup for me.
I like it. That's
So
what they're there
I'll
for.
be there.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you, seriously.
Thank you as well. Have a good day.